This is Getting Hooked on Loops. So today's project, we're going to be looking at loops when we're coding. So what is a loop? Well, a loop is something that repeats over and over again. Take a look at this and tell me if you recognize what this is. We have blue, green, blue, green, blue, green. When we have alternating things like this, repeated over and over again, we have a special word for it. Do you know what it is? I'll give you a second to think of it. If you need longer, go ahead and pause the video. If you said this was a pattern, you're absolutely right. And patterns are very much related to loops. If we were going to write this pattern in code, we might designate the letter B to be the code for blue and G to be the code for green. So if I'm writing my code, it might look something like this. Again, blue, green, blue, green, blue, green. And it's fine to write it that way, particularly when you only have a few items. But what if we needed 100 blue greens, or 1,000, or even 10,000? That would take a very long time to write all of that in code. Instead, we have a more efficient way of doing it. I want you to take a look at our pattern again, the blue, green, over here. As you look at it, are there ways that you can break that pattern down into smaller pieces to write it differently? I'll give you a second to think about how you might break that pattern up into smaller pieces. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Did you come up with this? Sure. If you came up with, there's a little set here of blue and green, and then there's a second set of blue and green, and actually a third set, so in total 3 sets of blue and green, that's exactly right. So as we think about how we write those sets, we can come back over to our code for blue and green and consider it this way. We can select a block that is called a repeat pattern, a repeat block, or a loop. Whenever you see a block that says repeat, that is the same as a loop. And so we take our repeat block, which will have something like this around it, but it'll have a box and it'll have a number in the box. And because we're making 3 sets, we're going to write 3x, meaning 3 times we're going to repeat this pattern. Let's take a second and try another one. Do you see the loop in this pattern? I'll give you a few seconds to look for the loop. If you need longer time, go ahead and pause the video, and then we'll move on. Did you see the pattern here? Sure, we've got the teal, orange, and purple, and it's repeated 4 more times. So we have 4 sets. Now, if we were going to use the pattern here of the teal, orange, and purple as our code, we would write them once, but then we would go ahead and find our repeat block and put 4 times in it. So let's take what we've just learned and apply it to Scratch. Remember that first pattern, the blue, green? We're going to recreate that on Scratch, but this time we're going to make our ball turn blue and green. When using Scratch, doing a color change is considered changing a costume. So you have to go over here to your code block palette, and instead of motion, we're going to go to looks. Click on looks, and you'll find the switch costume block of code. Now, ball B means ball blue, and so we're all set with that one. But because we're going to switch the color to green, we need a second switch costume block. And we're going to change that second one to ball D. And if I clicked on that, you'd see that changes it to green. But we want our ball to change from blue to green. Now, we're going to use that repeat pattern. And remember what we called that? We called that a loop. We'll go over here to the control palette, and our loops are located there. As you can see, we have 2 loops available to us here. One is called repeat, and one is called forever. Now, do you remember how many times we repeated our pattern? Did we just let it repeat on forever? No, of course not. We repeated it 3 times. So we'll take our repeat block where it says 10, we'll just double click inside of it to turn it blue. We'll change that 10 to a 3, and now we're going to be repeating our pattern 3 times. We're going to switch our costume B from blue to green. We're going to do it 3 times, and we need an event to make that happen. So this time I think I'll take when this sprite is clicked. So when people go and open up this pattern, they will get to click on the sprite and take a look. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to click right on our ball, and it's blue, green. What could have happened? Is it turning blue and green? Or is it just turning once? Well, what happened is that since we're switching our costume from blue to green, and it's happening so quickly that it's actually happening almost at the same time, there is no time in between each of them. So we are not waiting any seconds or anything like that. In order for us to actually see the colors change, we do have to add a wait block. So let's put a wait block of 1 second in between the change from blue to green. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what that looks like. I'm going to start that with blue. Ooh, there was a flash. And then it ends in green. Still not quite what we had in mind. I mean, when you think about it, we see the green, but it happens so quickly that we don't have time to notice it. And why do you suppose that is? I'll give you a second, think about it, pause the video if you need to, and come back and we'll discuss why that's happening. Okay, so the reason that's happening is because this last block loops back up to this block. So if we're going to repeat this 3 times, we start in blue ball, we wait a second, then we turn to the green ball, then we go right back up to the blue ball. Because we have done it that way, there's no time for the ball to change from green to blue, so we don't really see it. It happens too fast almost for our eye to see it. And certainly if we blink, we missed it. So let's go back to the control panel, grab another 1 second block, and put it here after the purple block that tells the ball to turn green. Have it wait a second, and then have it go back and loop back up. So let's take a look and see what this looks like on our project page. Blue, green, blue, green, blue, green. And it's done. We did it. We were able to take our blue-green pattern from our first slide and repeat that pattern using Scratch. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to spend some time using a repeat pattern or the loop block and create something that repeats. I would also love for you to share your project on my studio page. So all you have to do once this is done is click on Share and Add to Studio. And then you'll, once you've joined my studio page, you'll have a menu and you'll just add to Mrs. T's Computer Tech Lesson Studio. And that's all I have for this lesson on loops. Now go get loopy.